Welcome back to Fast Market here on the TD Ameritrade Network. Let's bring in our next guest for our cash tag segment. That's going to be Landon Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show, Landon.
Thank you, Tom. Good to be here.
All right. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. Square, having a good year so far, up about 18%, still down about 43% from year-ago levels, Landon. Are you guys seeing, the CEO recently made some positive comments, but, you know, if you look at Bitcoin, you know, they're involved in here a lot. That's up about 60% this year so far, Bitcoin is. Is that parlaying into some good data from you guys? Or are we still seeing some falling growth levels for Square?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it is the CEO's job to say good things about the company, so he's doing a good job there. But I would, I'd kind of break this company out into sort of two sections. I mean, you've got Square and you've got Cash App, and there's actually a big contrast in the data between these two. We're seeing Square doing pretty well. The brand Square doing pretty well. A lot of the metrics that we have are up on it. When you combine that with Cash App and look at the company overall, everything's down. So that tells you that Cash App is down quite a bit. In fact, when you compare it directly to Venmo, you can see a big move in which way people are going as far as these mobile financial applications. And Cash App is losing about 34% of mentioned volume year over year, where Venmo is gaining 21%. So that's a big move, and it's affecting the sort of the overall picture, if you will, between these two. We've actually got data. If you look at Cash App across the board, we cover consumer mentions, consumer demand, consumer happiness. All three of those are down for Cash App, which is actually pretty rare for us. Normally, they don't all go in the same direction, especially happiness. Usually it kind of goes the different way, because if you're losing customers, you're retaining your happy ones. But this is not the case with Cash App. When you look at the company overall, you can see the chart here. It's kind of, just kind of moving along. It's down a little bit recently. No big runs. I mean, it had a couple of big spikes there in April, and then a little bit earlier a couple years ago. But nothing that would really get you excited as an investor on a purchase intent basis. But again, this is the whole company combining Square and Cash App. But overall, I think that they're in a place right now. The stock's at about 73 or so, and over the last several months, about 9 or 10 months, the stock has just bounced between 50 and 90. So it's about halfway, a little bit higher than halfway between the low and the high end of that range. So I think that the story here is that Square is doing well. Cash App is losing steam significantly to Venmo. And so what will investors make of that? But that's kind of what the data is showing me right now.
Yeah, and we got to make that clarification. This is called Block now, Alex, not Square, but we're used to it being called Square, but they changed the name. But you got a question for Landon here.
Yeah, and I think obviously the block illustrates the hitching of the wagon to the crypto stuff, which of course helped when it was going well, and it's probably been a hindrance since it hasn't been the brightest part of the market. But Landon, my question to you is that you said the general company seems to be kind of chugging along okay, but in general, purchase intent mentions are just sort of meandering and down quite substantially compared to its peers. The overall stock price looks like basically any tech stock that had a huge boost post-pandemic, and it's come back down, in this case, actually lower than pre-pandemic levels. But my question to you is, what is there to be excited about here? The company pitched all the future kind of DeFi stuff and the digital currency stuff and the crypto and all that, but the market wants nothing to do with that. I don't think they're in the metaverse or any of that stuff, so they got that working for it. But what's the optimism? Where is this optimism from the CEO going to direct us? Because I can't see it in the data.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I think that all that stuff you mentioned with the DeFi and the crypto, I think that is a very strong point for this company, but I think it's like 5 years out, honestly. I mean, we need to see a really big run in crypto. You got to have Bitcoin in the 6 digits before you start, really impacting a company like this. And so I don't think it's Cash App. That's what it used to be. That used to be a lot of the driver for our data, showing that there's a lot of excitement. Getting a ton of small accounts was the appeal. And as we talked about, Venmo is really just kicking their butt right now. I mean, it's surprising to see how much better Venmo is doing. They're taking market share away. They're growing. Cash App is either shrinking or growing less quickly. And you can actually see a 2-year comparison here. So this pie chart on the left is right now 2 years ago, and you'll see that Venmo compared to Cash App was about 1/3. Cash App was about 2/3. Fast forward to now, 2 years later, and the roles have basically flipped. It's not quite at 2/3 Venmo. It's at 60-40 instead of 2/3, but it's very close. So Venmo has completely surpassed Cash App when it comes to what people are talking about and how they're being used. And I think a lot of that has to do with their ability to get accepted in more places. I mean, you can now check out on Amazon using Venmo, whereas Cash Apps, I think a lot of their claim to fame was, you could direct deposit your stimulus or your tax refunds, but there's hopefully no more stimulus, and I think tax refunds are smaller. So that's, those were one-time things where everybody shops on Amazon, every week. So Venmo's doing a better job of getting out there and getting supported, and I think it shows. I mean, PayPal overall is doing better than Block as a company. They have higher happiness. Their purchase intent is doing better, and it's the two apps themselves, Venmo for PayPal doing much better, and Cash App for Block doing worse. I think that their core business, Square, is chugging along. I think it's strong. I think it's a good company. It's a good brand. But I don't think it's going to warrant any really large tech multiples that you have seen in the past, because I think a lot of people were counting on Cash App to take it to that next level. And frankly, I think it's losing steam.
Yeah, and we've seen the stock move up by 18% this year. I mean, you probably throw a comparison on top of Bitcoin, which is rallying, pretty strongly. But the flip-flop that we've seen from, Cash App to Venmo over the last basically 2 years, according to your data, pretty substantial here. With that in mind, Landon, we don't have earnings until the beginning of May on this one. Is your data still reflective, like if you did have an earnings score, it continues to deteriorate?
Yes, it does. So right now we're looking at a -49, which is a pretty strong bearish score. It's not like hammer the puts or anything, but if they were reporting, we would definitely be on the bearish side. And again, it's a tale of two brands. It's really the Cash App brand failing, or not failing, but just falling behind Venmo, whereas the core brand of Square is actually doing well. So I think it really just depends on the volume of those two compared to each other and what investors care about. In my mind, Cash App was the story of how they can achieve these really high multiples and really fast growth, whereas Square was a little bit slower. So if that's the case, I think investors could be disappointed.
Oh boy, -49 on that, and a little bit negative there for Block here. Great stuff as always, Landon. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, that's Landon Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio, breaking down the data on Square/Block here.